Hey everybody, it's Wendy. Welcome. I'm so excited you're here today. I have some awesome ideas for you. But before that, I want to show you this new trash can that I got. This is from Lots of Style. They reached out to me and said, we will send you this trash can if you'll check it out. If you like it, show it on your YouTube channel and give us a shout out. So I said, sure, I'll try it. I'll try anything. But I told them I'm going to be honest. And turns out I love it. So it comes with these little baggies, and I've never had a little baggie for my trash on my desk, and I'm going to show you what I was using here in a minute. So you open the little baggies, and honestly they remind me of poop bags. You know, the poop bags you have when you go for a walk with your dog? They probably are the same thing. You slide this piece off, you put the bag in, and then you slide this piece back on. Now, the reason I love this is because I have very limited space on my desk. So it's very slender, and I love that it's rectangular. If you want one of these, and so I measured it, it is only 4 inches. It's like 3.5 inches wide, and then it's like 8 inches long. If you could use this for lots of different things. This was my previous bag, and it took up a lot more space. I love this because it's flat and nice. If you want one of these, you can get 30% off if you order it and use Wendy 30. So here's what it used to be like, and it kind of looked a little chunky. And now this, it's so flat and nice. I just love it. So link is below the video for that if you're interested. Okay, here's what you're going to need. There's a whole list of stuff here that's huge because I'm doing a bunch of different ideas. So I just kind of listed it all out here. There aren't, I mean, you could substitute a million things for what I used. This is the precision plate. I'm using the detailed background die. This is a die to create backgrounds with. So I said 5 ideas, but honestly, there's more. So number 1 would just be cutting it in white, using it as a white background, accented behind whatever you are doing. Here's another idea. Take Versamark ink, cut it out, take Versamark ink, stamp all over the front of it with Versamark, and then you're going to use whatever embossing powder you would like to use, embossing powder of your choice, to then pour over the front and heat set. And then you will do it again. So that's the fun thing about this, is there's no stamp involved, so you can just repeat the technique over again, and it's not an issue. I was looking for my tweezers, by the way, trying to decide best way to hold on to this. So that is the only thing with this. Here's the tip for you. You need to hold it with tweezers, and then when you do it the second time, you need to move the tweezers to a different location, because what will happen is no embossing powder will get where the tweezers are. And so if you want a really solid covered background, then you're going to need to make sure you do that. Now, you could stack the embossing powder up on here pretty much as many times as you want. I did it 2 times. You could do it 3 or 4 times. The more you do it, the thicker it's going to be, and the smoother it will be. As you add the embossing powder, it gets smoother and smoother, and it kind of has this really bubble effect. It's really cool. So I just did it twice, and that was sufficient for me. It felt like it was all I needed. And I'm doing it in gold. So Stampin' Up! Does sell gold embossing powder. You can purchase that, and you could do this in any color you wanted to. The other thing that you could do is you could pick a color, like let's say real red. Cut your die out of real red cardstock and do the same technique, except use clear embossing powder. If you use clear embossing powder, obviously it's going to take on whatever color the die is. So you could have a really cool finished look using any other color cardstock. So you can see there's a big white spot where my tweezers were. So I just moved my tweezers up 1 heart, and I went over and re-stamped over the top of all of this already embossed die, and then I'm going to repeat the process all over again. And this just gives it a really finished, smooth look. And it almost makes it like an embellishment because it starts getting really thick and it gets very sturdy the more layers that you add. So I just love, love, love how this turned out. I feel like this was probably my favorite technique of all of them, was adding the embossing powder. I could see myself sitting and just making a whole bunch of these using the embossing powder because it's so fun. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the finished product. So next technique, and we're just running through a bunch of techniques, and then at the end I will show you how I finished the cards off. So next technique, I'm using three inks, Gorgeous Gray, Melon Mambo, and Blushing Bride. Hindsight, I would have traded that Blushing Bride out for Flirty Flamingo, but I started it and I was like, it is what it is. I'm just going to go with it. So in the end, you don't really even see the Blushing Bride all that much, but I love the Gorgeous Grape and Melon Mambo combination. Really, really beautiful. And then the Blushing Bride just looked kind of dingy to me to add it to the ends, and you'll see what I'm talking about here. It just didn't blend as well into the Melon Mambo as I wanted it to. So yeah, if I had to do again, I would do a different color on the ends, but that's okay. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. This is a more Valentine-y colors. I always go over all of my ink blending twice. If you've watched me, you know, use a really light hand. I always get asked what these blending tools are that I'm using. They are from Ranger. They are not Stampin' Up tools. I personally find them much easier to blend with, and so I use them versus a sponge. So if you want those, there is a link in the description below the video, along with links over on my blog for both the trash can at the beginning and those blending tools. Okay, setting the die down, and I'm going to adhere it down. And this, I reuse my Post-it note tape a lot. And so this piece was just like, I'm giving up. I'm not sticky anymore. Ran it through my embossing folder, and now I'm going to use Press and Seal and cover the back of this. Now, one of the things I didn't do on the first one or this one, which was a big mistake, is I forgot to use my Stick It adhesive, my multi-purpose adhesive sheets from Stampin' Up on the backs. So had I done that, then I could just peel the backings off when I put these down. But anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm pushing all the little pieces of the heart down so that it stays in place as I peel away the die. And so I'm just poking through, making sure that those hearts stay stuck to the Press and Seal, and pulling the die up slowly, kind of at the same time. And it's going to keep all of those hearts where they're supposed to be, as you can see here, stuck to the Press and Seal. And then I have this really beautiful ink blended piece here as well. Now I layered a couple of dies behind that, and so now I'm going to take a blank die, I guess is what you could call it, a blank die, and I'm going to Press and Seal all of these off of here, and then put them kind of in the die. You'll see what I'm saying. You'll see in a minute. Okay, so this is how you get multiple cards out of this. So now I can remove the Press and Seal from the back because I need this to stick down to the card, right? So I had to put Press and Seal on the front so that it would hold all the pieces in place as I removed the Press and Seal from the back. I hope all of that makes sense. Remember, I had the Press and Seal on the back because that's how I got it out of the die all in one piece. So it's a little tricky. You have to think through all of these processes, and you have to kind of move slowly and be willing to be patient. There was a lot of patience involved with making these cards, but they turned out fantastic. So I'm super pleased with how all of them turned out. And there are lots of photos over on my blog at loveandstampin.com. So if you want to check those out, you can. I am using my Tombow glue here to glue everything down to a card base so that everything will stay in place. I love Tombow glue. It is my friend. I love it. Okay, so gluing all that down to a card front, setting it down, letting it sit and get nice and set up before I peel the front off. Okay, folding another card base in half, 4 1/4 by 11. And I'm going to take that die that I've already cut out, and I actually did not add the multi-purpose adhesive to the back, so I had to go over the whole thing. And so then I decided I'm going to use a sponge dauber and multi-purpose glue, and it would go way faster, which it did. So if you're willing to sacrifice a sponge dauber for glue, you can do that technique, and it works fabulously. There were a few little areas where the glue dried before I could put it down, so I just had to go in with my fine tip glue and kind of add a little bit of adhesive. It's worth noting that I did stack another white die behind the one that I put down, so this is raised a little. That's the one thing the video can't really show you, is how much dimension there are in all of these cards, because they are raised off the edge. Okay, so we're going back to this guy, and we're peeling this off the front because now it's all stuck down to a base. Now you have choices. You could just leave it like this and it would be perfectly fine. I wanted to stack several dies up and put them down inside this. So you're looking at it and it almost looks like the white outline is there, but there's not. It's actually missing because remember we pulled away the other ones that were ink blended to make that card that's sitting on the left. So these are just kind of sitting there and the white area is recessed. So I wanted to stack the white area and make it thick. So I'm going through and covering all of these edge areas with glue. And then I will adhere my die cut down inside there, and then I'm going to stack more than one so that there is dimension popping up off there. So you might be saying, well, why wouldn't you just ink blend a background, cut a bunch of white dies, and do it that way? You could totally do that, but then I wouldn't have the card on the left. So really I wanted ink blended hearts that are on the left. And so the best way to do it was to do it the way I'm doing it. Ink blend, die cut, and then add more. So I'm essentially adding back in what is missing here in this part. And then you can stack them to make them nice and thick. So that's what I've done. So these are stacked up and thick and popping out off of the card, essentially. So I'm just getting them all in place and pushing them down, and then I will put a block on top of them to let it dry. And using a bone folder to run over the top of them helps a lot too, to push everything kind of down and in place. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is take rainbow colored Stampin' blends. I'm using Poppy Parade, Mango Melody, Pineapple Punch, Granny Apple Green, and Pool Party. And then I'm repeating that process again with each one. And I decided that this wasn't long enough, so I had to go back down into my Pool Party with red again and continue the rainbow on. I should have probably just used purple, but I went ahead and used red and kind of blended that Pool Party together with it to make it a little bit of a purple. It turned out great. I really love how it turned out. So afterwards I die cut it and punched it all out of the cardstock, which takes a bit of time. I kind of showed you here without cutting a bunch of the video out that it definitely takes time. And then this is an important part because I want you to see, so the little pieces that stuck in the die, in the hearts, I wanted them to stay there. I wanted as many hearts as I possibly could get to stay inside the die. So these stayed pretty well. There was several that fell out, but for the most part, they stayed pretty well. And I didn't want a bunch of them to fall out. So I ended up punching out a bunch of hearts, and then I'm taking my die. So this is another technique, turning it over, and then I'm going to add dimensionals all over the back of these hearts. So this is very time consuming. I do edit this part of the video because, again, time consuming. You don't want to see me stick dimensionals all over the hearts and peel all the backings. It was kind of a nightmare. But it turns out so stinking cute. It's totally worth it. So I'm just going across all of these hearts, adding the dimensionals. Sorry about my dogs barking. It is Monday. We have everybody home from school and work, and in addition to that, we have people here pouring concrete for my new shed. So that's happening. So, okay, we're adding dimensionals, and you can see what a pain this is, especially with these ridiculously long fingernails that have been driving me crazy. I've got to cut them. I've been asked several times if they were my real nails. Yes, they are my real fingernails. They are actually that long. I do have stuff on top of them to keep them strong, but they are my nails, and they are getting out of control. So I'm going to have to trim them down and make them shorter. Okay, so now I'm adding my card base down on top of where I've put all of the dimensionals and the hearts, lifting it up, and then I have to poke all of the little hearts through the die in order to keep them on the card base and not have them pull up away from it. And this is what I have when I'm finished. Isn't that pretty? So this one kind of got cattywampus on me. I'm not sure how, but I just fixed it. And then I went in and decided to add a couple of more hearts. I kind of used the die as a guide of where they would go, but then ultimately I was just like, it doesn't really matter. I'm just going to put them wherever. So I'm using mini dimensionals, which, by the way, super handy to have around. And just kind of going through and adding hearts, like I said, in the areas where I felt like there needed to be a few more. Once I got all of that finished, I finished making my card, and then this is the next technique. Okay, so I wanted to show you, I used, okay, I forgot to use this adhesive sheets, right? So I put it down, I cut it, then I do it again. So I didn't cut this part out of the video on purpose, because when I did the coloring on the original piece of cardstock that you see up there in the left-hand corner, I did not use any adhesive like this. So in order to make life easier and have everything stick down easier, it's so much better if you use these sheets. So I put it on both sides of this cardstock. Now, normally you would only put this on one side of the cardstock, of whichever end you want to be basically stuck down. But I did it on both so that I could layer the colored piece on top and then layer it on top of another white one, because I wanted, again, that dimension and the thickness that would be kind of like a chipboard piece almost. So here it is after it's die cut. And so again, there's adhesive on the front and adhesive on the back now. So then I'm able to just remove the adhesive like backing from the front of this and add my die cut piece to the front. So you're going to see that here in a minute, because I don't think I cut that out. I kept as much in as I could. This video was an hour long, and I got it down to 26 minutes because I filmed this in bits and pieces over the course of several days, because life is crazy, and this video was kind of intense, to be honest, to show you all these different techniques. So putting those down, and then I will do the exact same thing on the back, except it will be just a plain white die cut. So I die cut the same detailed hearts again, and then stacked it on top of another white die cut. And because I added adhesive to the back, it's very easy then to just line it up and put it down, as you can see here. Okay. So let's have a little story time. I'm going to jump back and forth between story time and these cards. What has been going on? So we had a game night. We have friends who we adore, and we never get to see them. So their kids, they don't live very far from us, but their kids went to homeschool this year. And so I used to see my friend Carrie quite often, but now I don't get to see her as often because her kids are homeschooled. And so we try to make it a point to get together like once a month, but that hasn't happened in a really long time for various reasons. So we got together with them yesterday, which is Sunday. What was on yesterday? The 49er Packer game. Okay, we're going to talk football. It's happening, so just settle in. Here's what's happening. I am a huge 49er fan. My grandpa was an enormous 49er fan. Like, literally the man had all kinds of 49er paraphernalia, signed football, hats, shirts, jackets, blankets, everything you can imagine. And most of you who follow me regularly know that we lost him in October. He died actually on Halloween. And so here we are, and his team is going to the Super Bowl. And like, it's literally hard for me to talk about this without crying at this point. Every single time the 49ers played, I would get a phone call from him about the game, and we would hash it over. Like, who did what, how it was, and I can't even begin to tell you how much I wanted that phone call last night. It was so excruciating. And while I'm so proud of the Niners and I'm so excited that we're going to the Super Bowl, it is a little bit bittersweet. So first of all, I have to back up. I told my friend Carrie, I was going to cancel on her, and we had not gotten together in so long. So I called her and I texted her and I said, okay, here's the deal. You're going to think I'm crazy, and it's totally fine, and I'm really sorry, but I think we need to reschedule our game night because the 49ers are playing the Packers. It's the game for the Super Bowl, and I cannot miss it. Like, I have to watch it. It's a whole thing. It's all, like, it has to do with my grandpa. It's a whole thing. And she was like, we can watch it at my house. It's fine. And I'm like, well, you guys aren't really football people. And she's like, I'm a huge football person. So she went to Notre Dame. So Notre Dame is a huge football college. And so she was like, I'm all about the football. Okay, so here's all of the finished cards. Well, not all of them, because we're going to do one more. I said 5 cards, but there's actually 6. So we're going to do one more, and it'll give me a chance to finish up this story. So I told her that. And then in addition to that, this is the person I am, apparently. I've become this person. I'm fasting. So I don't eat until about 5 o'clock in the evening right now. This is a fast that I started on January 6th. It is a spiritual fast and has to do with just things. So if you've ever fasted and prayed or had anything like that, you probably know what I'm referring to. If not, it's not a big deal at all, but it is important to me, and I am fasting. So each day I don't eat until 5 o'clock in the evening. Okay, so I tell her that. I'm like, okay, so I'm also not eating till 5 o'clock. So if we could not eat until 5 o'clock. So listen to me. What kind of a diva am I? Like, we need to have the game on at your house. I can't come to your house because of that. I'm not eating till 5. I'm like, this is embarrassing. But she was so amazing about all of it. She was just like, it's not a big deal. And she does understand the fasting because she's Catholic, so she always fasts for Lent. So I was like, okay, well, at least I have that in my favor. She gets it. She's not totally like, what are you talking about? So she was totally cool about that. She was totally understanding and cool about the football game. It was awesome. So we ended up going over there about 3 o'clock. Football game started, and the Niners whooped the Packers' butts. I mean, they handed it to them on a silver platter. It was incredible. What a game. And the entire time I was thinking about my grandpa and just like, how much he would have loved it. My phone was blowing up because I had family members texting me, Grandpa would love this. I had, Uncle Mac is smiling in heaven, and it was just such a cool thing. So now we're going to the Super Bowl. So first things first, I'm going to need gear. Okay. I'm going to need gear. So I'm trying to decide like what I want to wear. Yes. This is a real conversation we're having right now. By the way, we should talk about this card because it's super cool. I partially die cut the bottom of it. You may have seen that. And then, and if you need to know how to do partial die cutting, I'll link to a video where I did a bunch of it for gift cards last week, and that'll be at the end of this video. And then I took another die cut from Designer Series paper, the From My Heart Designer Series paper, and I cut it down and I added it to the top of the card. So the bottom of the card is white and has a window because I put a window sheet on the back. And then the top is colorful, and then I put red cardstock inside. So you have this really fun, cool card. And then I'm just going to show you a photo of all the finished, well, actually I have a few here, but then I'm going to show you a photo of all the finished ones, and there's more photos on my blog. Look at, aren't these gorgeous? Oh my gosh, I love how they turned out. Okay, so yeah, I'm working on my 49er gear outfit, and we're throwing a Super Bowl party, and that's what's happening. And here's all the cards. Thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you guys have an amazing day. Shop with me at shoploveandstampin.com. Click either one of the videos you see here to watch those. Click the circle with my face in it to subscribe to my channel. And the links for everything are below this video, and they're also on my blog. Talk to you soon. Have a good one. Bye-bye.